Hey, family, welcome back to Black Lives Count, and we know they do. So, family, I am here today to discuss this hostile wildebeest issue with these white supremacists. So, you know, Trump can send the National Guard to Washington, D.C. Okay, he can send them to St. Louis. He can send them to Atlanta. He can send them to Houston. He can send them everywhere. But where he needs to send them to is rural white garbage can. We ain't gonna say the other word. America. That's where he needs to start with the National Guard. And I'm gonna tell you why, family. Because according to the FBI, white supremacists very right wing groups in America are the leading cause for concern in America. So I'm going to read you a snippet of an article. It's from the Brennan Center for Justice. Okay, hidden in plain sight: racism, white supremacy, and far right militancy in law enforcement. The government's response to known connections of law enforcement officers to violent racist and militant groups has been strikingly insufficient. This is an article by a gentleman named Mike German. Racial disparities have long pervaded every step of the criminal justice process, from police stops, searches, arrests, shootings, and other uses of force to charging decisions, wrongful convictions, and sentences. So, from the patrol all the way up to the courtroom where the judges are, it's all corrupt, all of it. As a result, many have concluded that a structural or institutional bias against Black people, shaped by long standing racial, economic, and social inequities, infects the criminal justice system. See, family, this is something that we've been saying for years. We understand this. These systemic inequities can also instill implicit biases, uh, prejudices that favor in groups and stigmatize out groups among individual law enforcement officials, influencing their day to day actions while interacting with the public. Yet they do nothing. And they do nothing, family, because they don't care. This is the way they want it. They want the system to be uh, geared in this way, and they want these blue uniform thugs, some of them do anyway, but these uniform thugs to go around into the Black community and terrorize its citizens. Let me continue. Police reforms, often imposed after incidents of racist misconduct or brutality, have focused on addressing some of these concerns and unconscious manifestations of bias. These are not unconscious acts. These are deliberate intent acts that they know what they're doing. There's no coincidence, family, that in the Black community, just about every day, if not every day, a couple of times a day, all across the nation, that Black men, women, and children are being murdered unalived at the hands of law enforcement. It's not a coincidence. It's a job description at this point. That's what it is, a job description. It goes on to say that the U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, for example, is required implicit bias training as part of consent decrees it imposes to root out discriminatory practices in law enforcement agencies. Family, we already know that this is a lie and this is not the truth. Now I'm going to skip down a bit because there's a part when I was reading it earlier really caught my eye. This part says in a inadequate response to affiliations with white supremacist groups and militant groups. The FBI's 2015 Counterterrorism Policy Directive and Policy Guide warns that domestic terrorism investigations focused on militia extremists, white supremacist extremists, and sovereign citizen extremists often have identified active links to law enforcement officers. Do you hear that, family? So we already know. They know this going back way before law enforcement came in. Back when these slave catchers, okay, these are the same entities. They know this, but they choose to do nothing. It says this alarming declaration followed a 2006 intelligence assessment based on FBI investigations and open sources that warned of white supremacist infiltration of law enforcement agencies. Okay? By organized groups and by self initiated infiltration, by law enforcement personnel sympathetic to white supremacist causes. Active links between law enforcement officials and the subjects of any terrorism investigation should raise alarms within our national security establishment, but it has not because they already know it and they don't care. In fact, I believe this is a requirement. Okay, this is a requirement, and this is why you always have white supremacists yelling back the blue, except uh when the blue does something to one of them. Then they don't want to back the blue. Only when the blue does something to one of us is when they're backing it. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security have identified white supremacists as the most. Listen, family, the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security have identified white supremacists as the most lethal domestic terrorist threat to the United States. There was I believe it was Abraham Lincoln. It might not have been, it might have been another one, it might have been Eisenhower, but I believe it was Abraham. But it was a saying that one of the presidents said the chickens will come home to roost one day. This is the downfall of America because these people have been allowed to do whatever they want to do. Run around the country terrorizing people, unaliving people, graping people, hanging people in trees. Okay, and we see this is going on real time. Like these truck drivers that are coming up missing, wink, wink, and then something is happening to them. They know this, but yet you see they do nothing. Let me continue. It says in recent years, white supremacists have executed deadly rampages in Charleston, South Carolina, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, and many, many other cities in the United States. They have narrowly thwarted attempts by neo Nazis to manufacture radiological dirty bombs in Maine and Florida, showing their dangerous capability and intent to unleash mass destructions. But they allow these people to continue to focus and fester in the United States. Let me tell you why. Because it's ran by the government. These are all ran by the government. Bottom line. Because if it were not, and they did not want these entities within the United States, they would have demolished them. You know, like they did the Black Panthers. That's what they would have did. They would have gotten rid of them so fast, we wouldn't even have no more history about it. But they didn't want that. They want them active in the United States. Uh, it goes on to say these groups also pose a lethal threat to law enforcement, as evidenced by recent attacks against Federal Protective Service officers and sheriff's deputies in California by far right militants intent on starting the Boogaloo, a euphemism for a new civil war which killed two and injured several others. And family, I'm going to say this. Just like with the January Sixers. Okay, these are people who caused the surrection. These are people who went to the Capitol in Washington, okay, and climbed up on that building like a bunch of raging monkeys, acted a fool, climbed in, tore up the place, put feces and urine all over the walls as they were some rot gut animals. Okay? Animals behave better than that. And yet Trump dropped charges for all of those people. Even officers were killed. These are the same people that say back the blue. They didn't back the blue that day, did they? You know, family, if this don't show black people, you know, I don't like the Democrats. I wouldn't vote for a Democrat that's not doing anything for our community, just like I wouldn't vote for a Republican. But for all the black men and women that went out there and vote, because I don't care. You didn't have to vote for Kamala. You definitely didn't have to do that. But you shouldn't have voted for that fool either. Neither one of them deserved the vote. As far as I'm concerned, I'd have rather gave my vote to Bert and Ernie, goddamn. Okay? Seriously. But you did not have to support that one either. Why should we support either? We shouldn't support either. Both of them are against black people. That you better believe. See, the Democrat is still, and I'm not coming down on immigrants. I'm not. So please spare me. But it's filled. Most of the black people in the Democratic Party, most of them are immigrants. So they care about immigrant issues. That's it. They don't care. See, some of them are too dumb to realize if you're a black immigrant, you're gonna share the same issues in America that black Americans have endured for over 400 years. But a lot of them don't think like that. We all got to get better, family. We must get better because we are uh, approaching some real deadly times. They are trying to start a race war. And my thought is they're going to be successful at it. They are. And so we need to get ready and prepare for it if it happens. We're not starting it, but we definitely not going to lay down and let people take us up out of here. Okay? And if that's what they think, then they'll find out different when the time comes. And we got to get it together. We really do. This is the time we need to be building. This is the time we should be separating from these people. We got to separate. It's time. And I am praying for our people that we will wake up. And I believe we are waking up collectively. And I'm talking about the diaspora and the continent. All of us together. We have to wake up. Several months ago, it was last year, I think, sometime, when we saw what happened in the UK, when they were attacking all of those black immigrants. That's all they were attacking is black people. They were not attacking other people because they went over to attack the Muslims, and a group of them came together and said, "No, you're not coming over here." But they were attacking. They said there were black people that were afraid to leave their homes. It's happening all over, family. It's time for us to come together. And all this African versus FBA versus Black UK versus Black Canadian versus Black Caribbean, we need to leave this shit alone. Leave this shit alone. And we better band together because some stuff coming down the pipeline is not just going to affect America. Trust me. I know you think it may, but it's not. Y'all should already know who you're dealing with over here. But I thank you, family, and I digress. I get very passionate when it comes to my people. But I want you guys to have a blessed, safe rest of your day. And remember, family, divided we fall, but united we stand tall. They can't take us all. We got to stand together once and for all. Peace, love, and blessings to you, family. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And come on back next time. We'll see you again in the next video. Bye bye.